there are maps, and they have those so they can make sure the drivers get to where they have to go. As far as mapping out, population base, I can't say that I have a map saying that this is this type of community, this is this type of community. I don't know if my local counterparts have that information. I know they know their area. The local emergency management coordinator is actually under the sheriff's department, and they know the communities, and also there's a Flint city representative in the EOC that would assist with getting that information.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Grant and Kyle. You mentioned that you have 9 nurses coming on board very soon.
They've already been hired, yes.
And when are they going to be in the school districts? And does that cover all the school districts at that point?
So there, one thing that we've been cognizant of both with health services and nutrition piece is the number of students who live in the affected zip codes but go to other school districts that through schools of choice. So specifically for the nurses, for Flint Community Schools, they have 9 additional school nurses. Each of them, each school building in Flint Community Schools has at least 1 nurse in them to date. They were hired essentially late March and went through training and have been in the building since after their spring break, which I believe was the first week of April.
Have they had any training or experience in like counseling or some therapy or anything like that?
That's not part of their scope of service. I mean, they're there to provide physical health services. I heard testimony earlier in Reno and working with school districts, not only Flint, but through the ISD and surrounding school districts that have Flint students in them, that the mental health needs are crucial and that they continue to grow. I know our partners at HHS have been focused on that, especially as part of their Medicaid waiver. That waiver has allowed them to do more things for physical and mental health, behavioral health services. So we have not, there hasn't been an increase, to your question, Mr. Moss, there's not been an increase in mental health providers in the schools to date, but we are currently working on that with the budget office and with the legislature.
Yeah, are these professionals indefinite, or is there a certain time frame that's been placed on them?
There's not been a certain time frame. Our focus when we asked for these resources from the legislature was that there would be an ongoing commitment. And so those dollars are in the 16-17 budget request and will continue to be part of our ask to the legislature every year during the annual appropriations process.
Commissioner Rezzio, any questions you have of any of the state representatives here today?
Thank you. My questions are more for understanding. There's no way to relate to the amount of work that you do on a daily basis, as there is no way for me to relate 100% to the residents of this community who are suffering. So I'm just trying to do my best to put myself in their shoes and experience the life that they're experiencing, and try to ask questions that can help me now educate myself, to educate the community. So just working in order back on water delivery, what concerns in the summer months coming up does the storage of bottled water affect this community? Is that a concern, or is water good no matter what the temperature of it is?
So I don't have the scientific answer. That was something that was being worked on, that was routing through the proper personnel, Health and Human Services, EPA, CDC, to make sure that information was accurate. I will say that the concern I have with storage of water is there have been cases where people are getting as much water as they can and storing it, thinking that we're just going to stop giving the water out. And what that does is then that potentially could cause other people to not be able to get that water as timely as they can. Now we have a very good logistics process in place to include a new warehouse that we are going to be filling with additional water. But to answer your question, that information is being looked at from where I sit. Other people may have already pushed that information out. I do know that if you have a water bottle and it sits in your car or your home, it is going to taste a little bit different. I think many of us have experienced that. You just have that different taste. But from a health aspect, I can't answer that question today, sir.
Is that one of the reasons why there's a limit of how much bottled water residents can take? We were asked to lift a bunch of water bottles in a crate, so to speak. And so what they were basically telling us is they were giving that one per household per day. What we correct is one household per day. And they were saying you need 6 or whatever each member.
Yeah, so let me answer. I get this question a lot, and I'll go back to originally what I had stated about the filters being the primary source. The 1 case of water was and has been a guideline. Now, obviously, down at the street level, sometimes there's communication issues, but the message has been clear that the 1 case of water a day, especially early on, when we were getting all our logistical components in place, was to ensure that when people do show up, at least they're going to get a case of water. But we have been providing, and the direction has been given, but I'm not at every pod on a day-to-day basis. If somebody was to say, I need more water, I have 6 kids, or I have an elderly grandmother I'm taking care of, they would give that to them. And I have pictures from early on where trucks, the back of a truck is loaded up. Just the other day, a truck took, I think, 40 cases of water. That's not necessarily what we want to do. We don't want to put a pallet of water in the back end of everybody's truck, because we got to make sure that we distribute it to everybody. But again, the intent is for that to supplement the filter resources that we have been providing. Now, I also understand there's trust issues out there, and I'm trying to do everything we can to get that messaging out based on science versus just based on what I or anybody else says that people may not trust. We're doing our best to communicate that information. I wish there was a magic way for me to fix all that, but there is no limit on the cases of water that is getting out there. But just know we have a lot of different people out there handing out water, and all it takes is one person to say something or do something where they're saying, no, we're only giving you 1, and then that will spread like wildfire. But the direction from me is 1 case is just a guideline. If they want more, you give it to them. Especially if there's a case where they, are saying, look, I have young children, I need to get the more water out there.
I think that is a challenge that, given that direction that you face, those 2 issues. One, the trust of the filters is not there, so therefore there's more reliance on the bottled water. And second, that there is an understanding unfairly that only 1 case is available. And so educating the community to say, well, you can take more than 1, that is another challenge. As we just heard today, as recent as today, I think all people that gave their testimony was, I'm limited to 1 case. So those were challenges to take back and find a solution, not the silver bullet, but to try something to improve that. When you talk about commodities, what commodities are you talking about specifically?
So the commodities specifically that I'm talking about are water filters, replacement cartridges, water bottles, and the water test kits. Those are the commodities that the federal government has provided us at a rate of 25% match for the state. That's what I mean by commodities.
Okay. And then you were mentioning that at some point in time you went door to door and left information that people didn't answer. Those pamphlets were listed in multiple languages, or at the beginning it was English, and then it's been changed of the other languages that you talked about?
And I'm thinking back early on, but I will say I'm quite certain early on we may have only had that in English, but obviously we were getting those translated. I just don't know all the languages they were translated, but I can't say for certain on day 1 they were in multiple languages.
You know, if today they're in Braille.
I do not know that, sir. I don't believe so, but
We had a gentleman today who was blind, therefore, he made a great point. Some of that information was given, he doesn't have access to the email. And so just making that point of reference. Again, like I said, just asking questions first.
yes, sir.
You talked about, you have noticed some gaps when you were doing the tracking of where commodities were delivered. What gaps have you been noticing? Like what, it's been like a pattern of sorts?
Yeah, so what we do is we utilize GIS mapping, and what that does is it paints a picture for me, no matter what it is, that we're hitting all these homes. So the city, we divided the city up by every parcel. Part of the mapping are the existing parcels. Typically that parcel is an address, but there's times, every day when they went out, so they had the iPads, and as they went to a home, the address, it was all geocoded. As soon as they hit submit, it literally would pop up on the screen in the State Emergency Operations Center as a dot on that parcel. So throughout the day, these dots would come up. But when I would look at the map every evening of the cumulative dots, I would see areas that, you know, may not have been hit. Sometimes they were a golf course or a park. Sometimes they were abandoned homes, or sometimes they were areas we haven't been to. So that would drive where we would send the teams the following day. So in the evening, we would analyze those maps, look at where we needed to put the teams, and then they would go out. We just kept going until every single parcel was color-coded, so we knew that we hit every one. And that goes back to the numbers and why I have the numbers of active water customers visited, because while we went to every residence in the city, what I track is, or one thing I track are the active water customers. So the city of Flint, the Public Works provided us with a list of active water customers, and that includes the franchise customers that don't live in the city of Flint that are on the water system. So that's the number I gave you, and that's how I can say we visited 100% of the addresses they gave us, because we went door to door, we tracked them all, and then of those 100%, from the same data, we were able to see how many actually have filters, as well as those that we weren't able to confirm. And like I said, in all transparency, even though I'm saying 100%, I do have one person not visited that came in yesterday, and I'll be following up tonight to see if they've made it to that resident yet to get the status.
Sure, and I think those efforts are impressive, as well as the apartments where they had people living in them was 100% coverage as well. How many people are calling 211 after you leave a pamphlet? Are you able to track that as a measurement that you're tracking?
I don't have a 211 report. We do get a 211 report, and I will stress they have done an outstanding job. It's not an easy task. We make adjustments as information comes in. If there's a problem, I know there was some information on the language and the interpretation on the phone. When we get those complaints, you know, we make modifications with 211. They've been a great partner, and it's a great resource. They would have that information. I do know it changes. Some days we'll see spikes, and other days we won't get very many calls. But I definitely know that 211 can provide you with a lot of data on a number of calls. In some cases, we would let them know if we were doing an event that we thought would cause a spike in the number of calls for 211. They actually would bring more bodies in to answer the phones. And I know some people, there was a time when they had long wait periods. As soon as we got that information, they brought in more people to answer the phones.
I think tracking the data is good, as well as the 211 calls. I want to echo what Commissioner Boss was saying. The more that you know about citizens who face certain disabilities, or knowing of Latino residents who fear deportation, that could be a possible reason why they're not answering the door and calling 211. And I think that is another significant challenge that has to be overcome at some point.
And if I could just kind of piggyback on the statement of undocumented or others concerned with that, that's exactly why when we did go door to door, we did not have uniformed personnel going to the doors. Now early on, Obviously, they were trying to get resources out there. The sheriff's department was doing a great job getting out there. But when we were going door to door, the uniforms, the cars were out there just so the residents knew these were legitimate, groups out there. Because unfortunately, there are people that take advantage of people during disasters and emergencies. They stayed out on the road, and those in plain clothes were going to the doors. National Guard soldiers, there may have been some, I know there were some, a lot of them going door to door, but from the law enforcement side, and there was clear direction given to our personnel in the state police. This is not a fugitive sweep, because I was questioned on that earlier in front of the legislature. We were not doing any fugitive sweeps. It was never a part of any intent, and that direct order was given to our staff. And also I did hear about ICE agents increasing. I haven't heard a specific incident where that has happened, but if I do hear that, I will be on the phone to Washington, D.C., to people that I know there that oversee that group to ensure that that is not happening. They did put a message out early on when we did hear that. We questioned them and said, are you doing this? And they had a statement that was released saying they were not increasing patrols. But again, that's people in Washington, D.C. All it takes is one person, as I mentioned before, and that can change public perception instantly. And we'll do our best to continue to make sure that none of that is happening, nor that the messaging that is being portrayed is occurring.
Well, I like the idea of your points of distribution and how that you're also training members of the community to assist in that. I have the privilege to work and live in Saginaw, and I know that they have community nights where they walk with the police during the night as a sign of unity. And again, not trying to say these ideas haven't been thought about, but I think that is an opportunity where what we heard today was, why not empower more members of Flint? So if there is a way for these community PODs to empower members of Flint to help assist and bring whatever information to the undocuments, to the illegal, so to speak, to people who know they're not getting the help they need for whatever reason, that is a strong possibility to gather that community and start building a little bit of that trust. But again, I'm on the ivory tower and not living the life that you guys live. When will those 2 training ones be converted and be available?
Sir, I am showing one May 10th, one May 20th, but this is due to some legal issues, and I hope to get those open. As soon as we can, we'll open them, but those are our current target dates for those 2 more.
Okay. And again, I don't think you can err on what you have been doing on the media channels and getting those things out. And again, we just encourage whatever you can get to the community, because again, what we heard today is still an unawareness of what's still available.
Sir, I apologize. One of them is May 3rd. I have two sites. I think we'll be able to get the one open May 3rd. That's our target for one of them, so I apologize. May 10th and May 3rd will be the next 2.
We heard that the water reacts with aluminum, and that rashes are occurring, and that rashes occur under people's basically their armpits because there's aluminum in deodorant. They have to find different deodorant. Are you aware of that? Is that been proven? Is that factual?
I don't know if anyone on this panel can answer that. It's a Health and Human Services issue. I would have to defer to those.
Okay, I will save those comments and submit them to our chair so they can be forwarded through. I believe, my last question for you, when will the hubs be ready to go, or are they already operational?
Unfortunately, that map is here. One hub is kind of open already. I wouldn't say it has all the resources. Boy, I hate to give a name because there's so many out there. We do have one, actually, I believe it's Greater Holy Temple, if I recall.
Greater Holy Temple.
And again, those just hubs have additional services, and they might look right now like a community pod. But the intent of those hubs is also for us to provide commodities to them, because I cannot distribute commodities to 412 different faith-based organizations. What I can do is give them to hub organizations, and then they in turn help us distribute them to the community. And it goes back to what you said about turning things over to the community. That is our intent, with the pods or even the hubs. But I don't have any other dates outside of that one. So again, there's a lot of legal issues I wish I didn't have to work through, but the reality is there's some.
I can understand that, thank you. Moving on to Stephanie. We heard people, testimony that people cannot work because of these rashes or other ailments they believe are caused by the water they're drinking and bathing. And because of that, they're unable to work. So how many of these people can be helped since they cannot work and thus cannot take advantage of the grant if these injuries are under the requirements necessary to receive grants for the temporary workforce?
So if someone is unable to work, the services that might be available to them would be through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, through cash assistance, food assistance, and others. And again, I can't speak for them, but if somebody is unable to work, I believe local community-based organizations and HHS would be the appropriate service providers.
I think the Department of Health and Human Services have the work cut out for them. You also talked about these jobs. So phase 1 is temp jobs, and phase 2 is to identify permanent jobs. When you talk about permanent jobs, are those all full-time or just part-time or mixed?
Our goal would be full-time permanent jobs that have a career path in an in-demand industry here in the Flint area.
Okay. And then can some of those funds help reimburse people whose pipes have burst due to their water filters and had to pay for plumbing? What I've been told is that because the chemicals and all that came through, it damaged the pipes. And then when filters are put in place, a couple of residents said that now that pressure that's been put on board had burst some of their own pipes. So one had volunteers going to fix it, another had people, plumbers, come and fix it, but then she had to pay for that service.
Yeah, these funds would not be available to pay for infrastructure costs themselves.
Would that also be a Department of Health and Human Services, or who would address that?
I am not sure, actually, who could address that question.
Which of the panel members could take it and find an answer for us? Because I think that's what the community would like to know.
This is for replacement of pipes?
That is correct. They had replaced pipes because it bursted due to the pressure. Again, I don't understand all of it, but having the water go through a filter creates some extra pressure. That was like a feather that kind of broke the pipes.
I think we'd have to get back to you with some response on that. I'm not familiar with.
I just need to know who would take that, who was going to follow up with
Understood.
the departments. Who?
I think Captain Kalinsky is writing that down right now.
Again, not trying to.
I will pass that.
Thank you. How are the agencies helping Flint mitigate the risk of contracting Legionnaire's disease as the summer months are coming about? There's education that needs to be met. There's trust, again, with these water filters. I'm sure there's concerns. What is being done to mitigate that risk, or is that another DHS?
That would be, for water heaters, that would be a DEQ issue. I believe some work was being done on testing, but I'm not qualified to speak on
No
those.
problem. Just wanted to know where we were at. All right, moving on to education. The 9 nurses, Kyle, do they cover all the school districts then? And so that wherever those 9 are, all the school district in Flint is now covered?
We cover every school building in Flint Community Schools.
But all Flint community schools, I mean, those 9 are centralized to help those schools. So there's no school left unturned, so to speak. No
In the
school
Flint
building.
Community Schools, yes. When you think about, again, when you think about school districts that have students who live in the zip codes that go to them that are outside the city, whether it's Flushing or other surrounding school districts. Genesee ISD has increased nurse capacity that they actually send nurses out to those buildings in those districts.
Okay. And then Commissioner Voss asked you about the opportunity, hopefully, that psychiatric care professionals could be helping these schools. And I think I heard you said it's in the budget request for 2016, 2017. Did I hear that correctly? Or what is the plan?
No, what I was referencing then was his question about what's the commitment to providing nursing services going forward. So I was assuring him that the budget includes money for nurses. As far as the mental health and behavioral health services, that's something that we are still working with the state budget office and the legislature to identify additional resources, again, not only for students attending Flint community schools and charters within the charter school districts within the zip codes, but also, again, those students that are attending school districts outside the zip codes.
Okay. I just thought it was a great point that one of the parents made here, that their child is watching cartoons, and in between comes a newscast commercial, trouble in Flint, and I guess being a parent of 4, that would also concern me. I didn't, again, I don't live this life, and whatever you can do there would much be appreciated. The sooner the better. You talked a little bit when the school year ends, you have plans for the summer. So when will this happen, and how will schools know and these families that there are events planned or tactics planned for after the school ends? Usually you want to do that before school ends.
Sure. Specifically, when you talk about summer feeding, Flint Community Schools has had a great history of providing these services already. Our goal to further address the current crisis is how do we provide additional resources and open more sites for longer periods in the summer. So typically what happens is summer feeding sites, whether they're in school buildings or they're in churches or they're part of community-based groups like the YMCA or Boys and Girls Club, they open early in the summer, but as you get into July and August, kids go different places, a lot of summer programming ends, so they typically shut down because cost-wise they can't afford to stay open. So that's where we're focusing our efforts on, increasing the number of sites that are open and increasing them for the duration of the summer. So
your plan is to wherever you can, keep those open, and for that summer, cover it so that the school comes again, the program continues? Sure.
And for instance, for Flint Community Schools, this past year they only had 7 of their school buildings open for summer feeding. They're going to have all 9 buildings open this summer, and they're going to keep them open summer long. That ties into the Superintendent Tawab's goal to move the district to a year-round calendar for a balanced calendar. So they're also going to be increasing educational opportunities during the summer months over last summer.
I just know that I'm convenient enough for me. I get email from my school letting me know about these upcoming events. Most people, I think, in Flint may not have that opportunity, nor when I was young, I gave all my papers to my parents. So what opportunities are there to make sure those gaps of educating parents, knowing that these activities are happening through this summer, gets in their hands, it's in the right language, braille is provided, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Again, those are functions that have happened in past years here in the community as part of their summer feeding efforts. Primarily the district works through, again, themselves, and so you've got emails, you've got parent newsletters. There's also the district contracts for its food service provider with Sodexo Magic, so you've got them providing information to students and families on a regular basis. You've got agencies like the Food Bank and G-Card that are also working with those same populations and those same families in other areas that we're kind of pollinating
So what you're
those
saying
sites
is
for
we're
additional
fortunate
support.
in the Flint community to have situations, although not similar, but been in practice, for protocol, so this summer should not be an issue. So
The CRIM Foundation has been really helpful, especially on the nutrition education angle of it, distributing those resources as well. So we're working closely with the community and with
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Nonprofit or community-based organizations in the county and in the city to get as much information as we can.
Okay. You mentioned that program and that 300 students are part of that program. How much does those 300 students represent of current enrollment in schools, and what is the goal?
I said an additional few hundred students have been serviced. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I can get those for you for the commission, but those are just additional since the additional supplemental funding was
I
passed.
misunderstood, sorry. But whatever the goal is, that would be helpful, and you get that to the executive director, that'd be great. I believe that's all for you, Kyle. Thank you. Shelley, on Laura, what percent of schools have water that is drinkable in Flint? Or is that the water filters, you feel very comfortable have got that covered?
Well, first of all, the schools, I mean, our goal is to replace the fixtures. The testing and the filters and all of that is being done by DEQ. And so those results, I think some are being posted, some are not. So DEQ would really be in the best position to answer that. I mean,
Okay.
our role is basically to go in and replace the fixtures.
And just remind me again, all those fixtures have been replaced?
Yep. Like I said, in the schools, yep, 927 have been replaced. Again, we're just waiting for the youth theater, which is actually being done tonight.
Who is installing those fixtures?
Pardon me?
Who's installing those fixtures? Again, we heard members from the
Yep,
community
a lot
talk
of
about-
local 370 that's here in the Flint area, a lot of those plumbers have volunteered their services. We have state inspectors, plumbers by licensed trade have assisted with DEQ for testing, drawing water samples, installing the fixtures, mapping. We would go into the schools on a Saturday and essentially design and map where the fixtures are and where the water goes. And then from there, we would do an installation and replace those.
I think all my other questions are probably for housing. So let me double check. I guess from your perspective, what is the metric, and this is for any of the panel members, what is the metric, what is the milestone, what is success for us to know that the Flint crisis is over and there's no longer any issues? How are you measuring success in your own approach?
Well, I think to say when this is over, I don't know if we'll, I mean, we don't know. There's a lot of things that are potentially going to occur, and you've heard some of those from the community members, from a health standpoint, children who have been affected. I would say there's a lot of goals and objectives and smaller tasks. I mean, every day we have metrics that are in place. I have one right now is to find out what this home is. So you say to measure success. We have successes every day. Some are small, some are large. But I don't know if any of us are really looking at an end date. This is what we are working on. And until we get there, or those who come after us, it's going to be continued as we move forward.
Yeah, I think what you were saying, like water is going to be there available until this is over.
So I can speak to that regard to alleviate any questions on that. The federal government has made it very clear to me, as I mentioned about this being a very long water mission in their eyes. August 14th, we no longer have the ability to purchase commodities through a contract with them where we only pay 25% of the cost. This is why I have just secured an additional warehouse here in Flint, so we can, in fact, if we get to that point, we can buy as much as we can at that price and get it in the warehouse. But again, the goal is to use that to supplement, and if there's any suggestions that were made as to how to increase the trust in using the filters, I would love for you to share those with me offline so I can work on that, because I know that's been an issue, and we have to change that.
Yeah, I don't profess to be an expert on that area because I don't live it. Again, I would encourage you to have those dialogues with the community, saying how as we community, who's going to be the first one to take the leap of faith, try the filters out, and then go to another one and say, hey, you got to try that filter. Let's do it together. Other than that, I'm not creating anything.
Yes, sir. I just didn't know if anyone shared anything when I wasn't. We have talked to the community.
Okay, enough said.
We're working on this.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Commissioner Reza, thank you for demonstrating, I think very clearly, I hope, that we were listening and listening intently. I'm going to slowly ask if Commissioner Kopak has a question, because we are about to change a little memory chip here in the video camera. Ready? Go. Commissioner Kopak, any additional questions, any areas that haven't been covered yet? Thank you.
Right, we have a ton of questions, but given the time limitation, I just want to ask a couple regarding the 9 school nurses. Are they, any one of them bilingual or trilingual, depending on the community?
I do know that 2 of the nurses are bilingual. The district has bilingual services as part of their educational work, so I know that they have that as a resource should, as they work with students and they see students that becomes a need that they can leverage those already existing resources for translation purposes.
Yeah, we include for blind students and also for deaf.
I know for the deaf, that's true. I would have to check on blind students.
And these nurses, you indicated that they don't have any treatment capabilities. Do they have the ability to do the assessment, any behavioral therapy or an assessment for behavioral or psychological follow-up?
For again, their primary role is physical health. I mean, I guess I don't know enough to speak to all 9 of their qualifications that if they would be qualified to provide those assessments. I think they are going to have their hands full dealing with the physical health needs of those students, and it's really upon us to help identify additional resources to really provide behavioral health resources that these students deserve.
And you indicated that there were children from birth to 4 years that were being tested. What about the other children that may have been affected?
Tested for?
Or what?
Well, the birth to 4 programs I was referring to, they were being assessed for cognitive or other developmental delays, not tested for lead specifically. Many students, and you'd have to talk to the Department of Health and Services about where they're at in conjunction with the Genesee County Health Department in terms of progress on testing students for blood levels. A number have already had the tests. For those that still need to have the tests or have not gotten them yet, those nurses have the capability to do that in conjunction with the medical oversight provider.
So those would just be long-term goals for whatever program is being placed?
Long-term goals in terms of
just monitoring and assessing and determining the needs of the children at that point in time.
Sure, and as as time progresses, as years go on, students that have been affected, that they may not show symptoms now or in 6 months or in a year, but we just don't know how physically each student will react to any potential lead exposure. So, and then for those that have chronic diseases like diabetes or asthma, that interplay is where really the nurses' case management of managing those chronic diseases is really going to come into play.
And then would that include the adults also in your program, or is that a separate component?
These nurses will not be working with adults, they will be working specifically with the K-12 population.
And I think that's all because I think the other issues would be financial. I'm sure that will be dealt with at some other point in time through legislation. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
What we need to do, as you may have recalled earlier in the hearing, we needed to give somebody a little handbrake who was doing all of this wonderful work. And if we could just break for a couple of minutes also for those doing American Sign Language who've been wonderful and have been here throughout, also need a little bit of a break. So maybe just for a few minutes, if we could just maybe stretch in place, people can stretch, and then I'll come to the commission after that. So it's 10 of 8, and 9 of 8 will be back at about 6 of 8.
Why can't we?
Flint, Michigan.
Why not?
Our voices.
Our voices.
WFOV.
What would happen if we...
WFOV.
How many times have I said...
I've got the solution.
Not everybody's bad.
Why can't we work together?
WFOV.
Our voices.
Our voices.
WFOV. You know what the problem is?
I heard a guy on the radio. There's other
Our
communities.
voices. I like to hear it.
WFOV.
I heard.
WFOV.
What?
WFOV.
Our voices. 259-978 Flint's newest radio station. Located right here in Flint, Michigan. The Good News Radio. If you're interested in getting involved, having your own show, or just supporting the station, give us a call at 259-9789. That's 259-9789. It's Our Voices. Located right here in Flint, Michigan. The Good News Radio. If you're interested in getting involved, having your own show, or just supporting the station, give us a call at 259-9789.
Again, I appreciate everyone being here. So the question I have for Captain Polinsky, regarding the models that we have with the delivery and the pods, there were several individuals who testified that that model is not working. There are 62 precincts, voting precincts in the city of Flint, and 62 seems like the number that a compartmentalized, able to get to a location might be sufficient. Would you be willing to consider a direct delivery to local 62 pods, 62 precincts, areas where it may not be a fire station, it may be a individual, a structure, a home, someone who's sanctioned to provide a delivery more closely to the neighborhoods? That's the one question. And the other question I had for you is the individuals were talking about desiring showers. There are mobile units that are utilized in other more rural locations that provide, I know the Department of State has a mobile branch office. There are mobile facilities that could be utilized to allow persons to take showers with clean water, especially for areas with a high number of children in it. And maybe that could be utilized more quickly. So if that could be done, that would be addressing some of the more immediate needs. The third question I had for you, and the last for you, is the hire of 81 personnel to staff the community pods. I'd like to know what percentage of those are African American and come from Flint. I know it's from Flint residents, but which percentage of those are African American?
So to your question on direct delivery, the model that was used, as I mentioned, with the fire stations, that was to get something in place. Now that I know there's a federal model out there that is being implemented for future events, the community pods that are being established will follow that federal standard, if you will, and that will facilitate traffic much better and much safer. And so I think that is going to increase or facilitate the efficiencies of getting people the commodities. Also, we're putting one in every ward to get it more centrally located in the community. And we're working with the council members in some cases and community members as to where the best location is. And I will also say the MTA, the busing system, they have also been great partners as far as modifying different routes, assisting people with loading and unloading some of the commodities, and we're working with them. But at this point in time, the wards that we have in place is the model that we will be implementing, and we will continue to act and adjust as necessary to ensure a facilitation of commodity flow. As it relates to showers, in my position, I look at facts and science and what the needs are that is getting pushed up to us from the local emergency operations center, which is the local community. As far as under the Emergency Management Act, that information goes to them. I will say we have looked at different shower systems, and I have yet to be told about one that actually filters lead and other things versus just chlorine and everything that I'm told is it's cosmetic, which will have some benefits for some people. But I think until we get the information back from those agencies, federal and state, that are testing to find out what the cause of the rashes are, compared to what is background, if you will, as far as what's normal, I really can't make a decision on the shower question you have. I mean, it's been discussed, but again, in my position, I look at the facts that are presented to me, the science behind it, as well as what it is the local emergency operations center is asking the state to provide. And then we work through that request. As far as the 81 personnel, ma'am, I don't have that information. I don't know if Stephanie or anybody has that. I know our partners that are really involved in the hiring process would be able to get that to you, which would be Michigan Works, ma'am.
Thank you. For Ms. Kamai, thank you for being here. I have a few questions for you as well. We were told today that there are significant, almost 50% of individuals who are non-high school graduates
have felony convictions and are severely impoverished here. In the workforce, you have 107 temporary workers. Are any of those qualified to get some of the $12 an hour jobs? And if so, or if not, how are you going to integrate those individuals into the workforce who absolutely do need it? The other question I had is whether the $12 an hour jobs come with benefits, insurance benefits or other. And in terms of the coordination of those, I know you're doing coordination and oversight. With the equipment and learning, are you also looking at, with the $7.5 million that's been awarded so far, looking at building the workforce with respect to driver licensing, driver education, and different things like that, so that individuals can get a job and in the delivery, especially with delivery. Driver licensing is an important thing as well.
Right, so I think if I understood your first question, it was about people who have low educational attainment, have a criminal history, whether some of those folks would be eligible for some of the jobs that I've discussed. And the answer is yes. Low educational attainment or criminal history does not preclude someone from holding some of the jobs that we have talked about. The jobs are considered under federal law, they're called work experience, and they do not come with benefits. And then I think your third question was about long-term employment opportunities for the folks that we're employing. I should first point out that we've hired 107 people, but there have been over 975 applications filed. Now that does not, those are duplicates, right? People can apply for many different of the jobs that we have. There's pod workers, there's truck drivers, there's administrative support positions. And so I just want to make sure that you understand that 975 applicants is a duplicate number. It's not unique individuals. All of those folks will be, whether you're hired for one of the temporary jobs or you just applied at Michigan Works, you're eligible for assistance from Michigan Works to help you develop a career plan, search for work, do resume building, resume writing, skill building, job search assistance. So there's a wide variety of assistance available to people depending on where they are in their search for a career. Some people already have credentials. One of the folks we've hired actually to be a career coach, three of those career coaches that we've hired actually are all veterans. One of them actually has a bachelor's and a master's degree from the University of Michigan, Flint. So people are coming to us who already have those credentials. Our next step is to make sure that they don't, this temporary job, really we want to focus on a long-term employment plan for that person.
What percentage of those 107 are African American?
I do not know the answer to that. I was at a pod actually on last week, and Ward 1, I believe, is open, if I'm not mistaken. And just from my recollection there, I believe 100% of those pod workers were African American. I don't have the breakdown, but my partner here, Michigan Works Agency, we could get that number to you.
But do they have to have identification and driver licensing to obtain the employment?
No.
So no driver, no ID, no driver's license?
We need to verify who you are, but it does not have to be a driver's license. People do not have to be a registered driver in the state of Michigan for these positions.
Thank you. Mr. Thank you so much for coming. I had a question regarding, you mentioned the Flint Community Schools. How many schools are there in the city of Flint, public, private, charter schools, and how are you addressing homeschoolers with respect to the education?
I would have to get that number to you for the actual number of schools. If memory serves me correct, there's 8 larger charter schools that are in the city. And I don't know the number of parochial schools off the top of my head, but I can provide that for you.
Are you servicing these other schools outside of the public schools?
Yes, the charter schools are also being serviced as well. In those cases, for instance, with definitely for the nutrition services piece of it, again, some of our expansion with our fresh fruit and vegetable grants has been into those charter schools because they were not previously participating. As far as health services are concerned, the school nursing aspect, the Genesee ISD is using their nurse consultant to provide those services. The CRIP Foundation, again, the nutrition education aspect of things. The CRIP Foundation is providing the same type of educational, nutrition education information to students and parents that they're providing, that they're working with Flint Community Schools.
But not to the homeschoolers, correct?
I would have to check on that because just for clarification, homeschoolers do not have to register in the state, so we only have a certain limited universe of homeschools students in our state because many choose not to register, so we have a hard time knowing who they actually are.
Are these, in terms of the salad bars, you talked about 20 salad bars being donated. In terms, right now, do you do any weekend, I know there's a red backpack program in the city of Ypsilanti, Michigan. There's other weekend food programs being promoted. Are you doing any weekend programs for these children and their families?
G-Card and the food bank are providing those types of services for families.
In terms of how the summer programs